All right, let's get after it. Better than the New York Giants just did. That was brutal. That offensive line. I mean, they've invested so much in that offensive line over the past few years, and they're getting nothing out of it. The Seahawks don't have a lot of good pass rushers, and they still sacked Daniel Jones 10 times. I don't think it's done yet, but I just walked up and I said, why don't we start this show? Why don't we talk about the 49ers and the Cowboys? Why don't we put together a first preview show? I know I did the first scouting report here from downtown Visalia a little bit earlier today, but a first nice formal preview show for 49ers Cowboys is definitely called for here on Monday morning. This is a huge game. This is a game that's going to have big time NFC seeding implications. The 49ers have two monstrous ones on their schedule, at least at first glance, against the Cowboys coming up here on Sunday. Is it October 8th? I believe it's October 8th. Yeah, I'm just trying to do the math in my head, 6 days from now. And then they have the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's in early December. Of course, everything counts toward the seeding, toward the standings, which the 49ers are gunning to be the number one seed in. But when you look at your primary adversaries in the NFC, the Cowboys, despite the loss to the Arizona Cardinals, are one of those primary adversaries. In fact, the 49ers and the Cowboys played in the postseason last year. And obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles, who the 49ers faced after Dallas, they're also an adversary. And heck, the Seattle Seahawks, the 49ers still have them on the schedule twice. Can't pretend that the NFC West is won until it actually is won, right? Seattle today went and flexed its muscles in New York, but the New York Giants have bigger problems. They had a long time to prepare for this game. They played on Thursday night against the 49ers, not this past week, the week before that. And they couldn't figure out a better way to use Daniel Jones. They finally started running him a little bit, and something makes me wonder, why didn't he run against the 49ers? Why did it take him a little while to get that going against the Seattle Seahawks? It's a mess. Brian Daboll just not running a very clean ship over there in New York right now. So no help from the Giants for the 49ers, but doesn't really matter right now. We're here to talk 49ers Cowboys. This is the first official preview. The headlining matchup in this game between the 49ers Cowboys is the Dallas defense against the 49ers offense. And this is the XY axis that I like to use to showcase team balance. And these are two of the more balanced teams in the NFL, although I will say that offensively, Dallas really isn't up to par when you look at them relative to a lot of the other teams in the NFL. They're more of a mediocre offense, but I think that means that the headlining attraction in this game is definitely on the other side of the football. Vertical axis is defense. And look at Dallas. It's Dallas and Cleveland. So over the next 2 weeks, the 49ers are going to face the top two teams on this chart on any advanced defensive metric measurement, the top two defenses in the NFL. So Brock Purdy was so damn impressive, historically good this past weekend, but now he's going to have to face a better defense. The Arizona Cardinals, as you can see, that is a below average defense. So Purdy was historically good, 95.2%. But let's face it, it was against a below average defense. And you know me, I'm the first one to credit Brock Purdy for what he deserves to be credited for. But I also can mention that the degree of difficulty is about to go up. He's got to do it against this Dallas defense, and he's got to do it against this Browns defense. Obviously, Dallas first. Now, Dallas offensively, you could see they're still behind several teams. And the schedule for Dallas has not been particularly difficult, at least according to the DVOA calculation. So this is not defense adjusted. But if you adjust this for strength of defense that Dallas has faced, their offense ranks way down at number 16, which is about league average. So their offensive dot would be further to the left, and Dallas might be a tier 2 or tier 3 team. According to just raw expected points per play, which is what we see here, Dallas straddles tier 1 and tier 2. The 49ers over here are in tier 1. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the 49ers are an offense-driven team for the first time in a while, really. For the first time, there are parts of 2021 where the 49ers were an offense-driven team, but ultimately their defense caught up to them, and then all the injuries down the stretch of the 2021 season made the 49ers plot on this chart be more up here, more in the Kansas City-Dallas range of this season, maybe more in the Baltimore range. But this year, the 49ers are a very offense-driven team. They're tier 1 because of their offense, number 2 in the NFL behind only Miami. And the defense is above average for the 49ers, definitely. It's top 10, but I don't think the defense has peaked yet. Anyway, I want to focus to begin this preview of 49ers Cowboys on what I think should be the focal point, and that is the number 1 Cowboys defense against the 49ers offense. So the big question here is Dallas a front-running defense with a run game kryptonite? And the reason that I bring up the question is Dallas has looked damn good in 3 of its 4 games. They dominated the New York Giants, although that might not mean much because the 49ers dominated them too. The Seattle Seahawks are dominating them right now. The game is probably finishing as I speak. And hell, the Arizona Cardinals dominated the New York Giants for a half. So whatever. That was week 1. Then the Dallas Cowboys turned around and worked the New York Jets. Then they turned around and they lost at home, or they turned around and lost on the road to the Arizona Cardinals. And then they rebounded with an absolute thrashing of the New England Patriots. So you have 3 dominant wins for the Cowboys and 1 12-point loss. They haven't played a single truly close game this season, which is crazy because you would think that a team that's blowing everybody out, you would think if they lost one game in that stretch of blowouts, they wouldn't get blown out themselves. But 12 points in the NFL is a commanding victory, and that's what the Arizona Cardinals did to the Dallas Cowboys. So the question is really fair to ask. I feel, is Dallas a front runner, especially defensively? Are they a team that needs to be in command of the game? And when they're in command of the game, all the talent they have shines through. But when they're not in command of the game, they fold. Because that's exactly what's happened so far this year. In the 3 games that Dallas has been in the driver's seat, they have just whipped ass. I mean, they have just gone out there and they have dominated. But in the game where the Arizona Cardinals landed the first punch in week 3, where the Arizona Cardinals had a strong run defense, Dallas hasn't done that. And Dallas got their ass kicked. It went the other way around. So I'm sitting here and I think back to 2021. I think back to 2022. The 49ers played the Cowboys in the playoffs both of those seasons, knocked them out of those playoffs in both of those seasons. And the theme of both of those games is, yeah, Dallas's defense was good. Dallas's defense made its share of plays, but they never were able to overwhelm the 49ers the way they've overwhelmed the New York Giants, the way they've overwhelmed the New York Jets, the way that they have overwhelmed the New England Patriots. In fact, the Dallas defense looked more like it did against the Arizona Cardinals, which was not good at all, than it did in the 3 dominant wins that it did this year. So I think that the bigger key than usual in this game for the 49ers is to play this game downhill. Dallas, I mean, these guys are bullies. They have so many good players. They're loaded with talent, especially along the defensive line. It only begins with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, but it continues with so many other talented defensive linemen. I mean, Dante Fowler Jr. is on this Dallas defensive line. We saw Leighton Vander Esch, the linebacker, pick up a fumble that was caused by the defensive line, run it into the end zone against the New England Patriots. I mean, you see not only a powerful, aggressive defensive line, but you see beneficiaries on the back 7 who are ready to prey on the football either through interceptions, fumble recoveries. They're ready to swing the game in the Cowboys' favor. The Cowboys have 7 interceptions this year. That trails only Buffalo for the league lead. So when you play the game uphill against Dallas, you open yourself up to this extremely athletic, extremely aggressive pass rush to make life very, very hard on you. But when you play this game downhill, then you neutralize a lot of what Dallas does well. And it's one of those ironic things, right? Dallas, we call them a bully. You call them a team that has all this talent, that has a lot of brawn up front, that's able to overwhelm offensive lines and pass protection. It's like if I ran into a shark in the bay, the best way to neutralize the shark would be to just punch it right in between the eyes. So you run into this aggressive Dallas defense. The best way to neutralize the Dallas defense is to run right at them. Establish the run game. Look at what Arizona did to Dallas. 222 rushing yards, 7.4 per carry. And because of that, they diffused the pass rush. It wasn't a Micah Parsons game anymore. It wasn't a DeMarcus Lawrence game anymore. Joshua Dobbs went 17 of 21. He had a comfortable platform from which to throw. You know, a lot of the analytics people, they don't understand the correlation between run game and passing success. They're like, oh, our numbers somehow show that play action doesn't matter. BS, it doesn't matter. Everything matters. When a pass rush is on its toes, just watch Micah Parsons when he's on his toes, when DeMarcus Lawrence is on his toes, when all these guys are on their toes, pinning their ears back, ready to go after the passer with nothing else to think about, they're going to get that get off in 0.2, 0.3 of a second faster than otherwise, and they're going to get the quarterback. They're going to beat the offensive lineman with that advantage because margins are tiny in the NFL. But when they're thinking about the run, when you're pounding the rock and they have to think at the snap, oh boy, I'm going to have to defend the run, they're at least partially on their heels. And if that slows down to get off by 1/10 of a second or 0.2 of a second, that is the difference in an NFL game. That's the difference between playing the game uphill and playing the game downhill. And in 2 straight postseasons, the 49ers have played the game downhill against the Dallas Cowboys. And that's what they have to continue to try to do in this game. I will say, though, the 49ers last year, it was a grind against the Cowboys in the playoffs. Whereas the Cardinals this season averaged 7.4 yards per carry, 222 yards on the ground against the Cowboys. In the postseason last year, the 49ers had 113 rushing yards at only 3.5 per carry. Now, they were relatively consistent, and they stuck with it, and they controlled game flow. But remember, that was a game that it was kind of a white-knuckle ride for the 49ers. George Kittle made the 9-yard catch against Dallas last year. Maybe it was the 12-yard catch. It was a catch that took essentially 2 yard markers, like solid yard markers, not just the 1-yard markers. He crossed 2 solid lines, I felt, while he was bobbling the football, and then he finally brought it in. That was part of the drive that I think it required also a holding penalty against somebody covering George Kittle for the 49ers to make it all the way to the other end. And then Christian McCaffrey scored the touchdown, and he handed the ball to Jerry Rice, and the 49ers finally had command of the game. I mean, this was a bar fight against Dallas. So they only managed those 3.5 per carry. It wasn't easy at all. I did ask Kyle Shanahan, though, today, and he agreed with me about Christian McCaffrey and just how CMC is running more effectively this year. The vision within the context of the 49ers system has improved because he's had a full year now to really process the playbook, a full offseason to become really, really involved with what the 49ers are trying to do. And you could see it. I'm not sure if it's that apparent on TV, but I can tell you what, I'm at these games in person, and you could see the hole develop. You could see McCaffrey feel his blockers, press his blockers. He's doing it with more efficiency than he has before. Last year, actually, funny enough, Elijah Mitchell saw more carries against the Dallas Cowboys in the postseason than Christian McCaffrey did in that game. I don't think that's going to be the case, assuming everybody stays healthy in this one. I think McCaffrey has become so comfortable and so acclimated in the 49ers offense, and it's such a huge part of what they do. I mean, he has the Steph Curry effect, right? He's drawing defenders toward him. He's a magnet. He's a gravitational force on the field. It's hard for Kyle to take him out of the game. And I think that if McCaffrey can play the majority of this game, and if players around him stay healthy, I don't think the 49ers are going to be rushing for only 3.5 yards per carry this year. That's just how much improvement I've seen from last season already within the context of this 49ers scheme for Christian McCaffrey. So if that happens, the 49ers will have a ticket to move the ball against Dallas. I'll be the first to tell you that Dallas did a really good job defensively against Brock Purdy last year. On the converse side, I think that Brock Purdy did a good job against Dallas. I think it was good football both ways. Purdy did not turn the ball over last year, but he faced a monstrous Dallas pass rush that was able to at least partially tee off on him because the 49ers weren't really establishing that much of a run game, right? Dallas was having some fun because they were doing a decent enough job stopping the run. And Purdy, to his credit, despite the fact that the game was a total slog and Dallas was playing fast, hard defense with a really vaunted unit, Purdy took care of the football and let the 49ers defense and special teams units take care of the rest. I think that there's going to be a little bit more upward mobility this year for the 49ers offense just because, Yeah, I'm on record saying that I think when they're healthy and they're lined up to be healthy for this Dallas game, when they're healthy, I don't think it's geometrically possible to properly guard this 49ers offense. They just have too many good eligibles who are capable of winning one-on-one matchups. From McCaffrey to Samuel, obviously to Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Hell, Kyle Juszczyk was working against Kaiser White against the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, the 49ers have the geometric advantage when you combine those skill position weapons with what Kyle Shanahan is calling. Brock Purdy then has to leverage that geometric advantage with pinpoint passing. He did that against Arizona. It's going to be harder against Dallas because the 49ers offensive line is going to have to hold up against a really damn good pass rush. This is a great barometer for the 49ers O-line. They're coming off of their best performance of the season. Colton McKivitz gave up a sack and one pressure. Week prior to that, Colton McKivitz didn't give up anything. Clean sheet. Dennis Gardeck, the outside linebacker for Arizona, got him. Well, guess what? Micah Parsons is now going to be lining up over right tackle. He's going to be lining up over left tackle. He's going to take his pick. He's going to probably line up over center and guard too. One of the most versatile defensive players in the NFL, Micah Parsons, great player. A lot of respect goes both ways between Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons. The 49ers are also going to face a Dallas team that blitzes 31.1% of the time. That's number 7 in NFL. So consider what they faced against Wink Martindale and the Giants a couple weeks ago. NFL record 85% blitz rate. They eviscerated it. The 49ers, they scored 30 points. It created maybe a little bit of a problem because early on, because they didn't have as much preparation as they would have liked. It was a Thursday night game, but they figured it out. The blitz didn't work against the 49ers. The ultra aggressive blitz rate didn't work of 85%. Last week, the 49ers played an Arizona Cardinals team that blitzes less than anybody else in the league. Cardinals only brought it 17% of the time. 3 of 4 blitzes total. Brock Purdy eviscerated that as well. So in each of the past 2 weeks, the 49ers have seen the opposite end of the spectrum as far as what the blitz rate against them has been, what they have to handle up front in terms of extra men coming after Brock Purdy. Both times they've scored 30 plus. So what's Dallas going to bring? Well, probably something in between those two rates. 31.1% blitz rate, number 7 in the NFL. They heated up Brock Purdy a few times in the playoffs last year. I think they're going to bring more than the Arizona Cardinals did, and I think they're definitely going to bring less than the New York Giants did. What the 49ers have to do is find a way to make this work cohesively against whatever pressure the Cowboys bring, while knowing full well that the Cowboys can bring a lot of heat and pressure the QB if they don't blitz and only 4 are coming. Because, again, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dante Fowler Jr.'s on. I mean, I could go on for about a minute listing all the pass rushers on this Dallas team. So the 49ers have a tall task in front of them to keep this Dallas pass rush diffused enough so that they can work the football downfield. If the 49ers can work the football downfield, though, Dallas has some sneaky struggles against yards after the catch. They've allowed 5.7 yards after the catch per reception. That ranks number 27 in the league. So they're near a bottom 5 yak defense team. Last year, they were bottom 10. So if you can get the ball out in space against Dallas, I don't think that they're great tacklers. That was the one big knock on Trayvon Diggs. He's hurt now. He's done for the season, right, with the season-ending injury. But even the guys that have replaced Diggs, I think if push comes to shove and they have to take on Deebo Samuel in the open field, the 49ers are going to have the same advantage they have against essentially the entire NFL. They've been zagging while other people are zigging. They've been building these, just when you look at Deebo Samuel, somebody said, who's better, Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel? And another person hopped into the Twitter exchange there and said, that's not a really smart comparison to make. One of those guys is a sports car and one of them is a diesel truck. So Deebo Samuel's a diesel truck in the world of sports cars right now. The Dallas Cowboys are like many NFL teams in that they've downsized defensively, especially on the back end. And they have gone for speed. They have gone for aggressiveness. They've gone for COD, which is change of direction. But the one thing that they haven't built for is to try to tackle a diesel truck like Deebo Samuel. So that's why there are some sneaky struggles against Yak. Well, one is a schematic thing, but two, it's something the 49ers can exploit. And I think that it was smart of them to give Deebo Samuel a lightened workload this week coming off of the knee injury. I think that he's going to be ready to bruise. I think it's going to be fresh legs. He's going to be ready to bruise against Dallas. And I think that the game plan is going to call for adaptability and for bruising Yak from Deebo Samuel and for handoffs. Let's be honest, against a team that is as pressure happy as the Cowboys, with either their natural four-man front or with their blitz rate of over 31%, the best way to diffuse that is to keep it off balance. You want to keep the Micah Parsons on his heels, not on his toes. Best way to keep somebody on their heels, you don't make sure he doesn't know if you're going to be running the football or passing it. The best way to make sure with your personnel that the 49ers have that the other team can't be sure if they're going to be running or passing it is by using your adaptable weapons who are run-pass options, right? Not RPOs. I'm talking about the weapons themselves. Run-pass options. Christian McCaffrey can be a receiver. He can be a running back. Deebo Samuel can be a receiver. He can be a running back. When you break the huddle, they don't know what you're going to run based on who's in the huddle because so many of the 49ers skill position players can do so many different things. So this is going to be a chess match. And, Dan Quinn, on the other end, he used to be Kyle Shanahan's boss, right? Atlanta's coach. He's the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys now. It's going to be a war between Quinn and Kyle Shanahan. A lot of respect between those two, and there's a reason why this is the game of the week. You've got talent on both sides, but you also, I think, have good schematic minds on both sides of the marquee matchup, and that is the number one Cowboys defense from Dan Quinn against the number two 49ers offense. All right, I want to talk about the other side of the football because as you can see here, XY axis, the 49ers used to be up in the Cowboys territory. Used to be a team that flirted with tier one because the defense was great and the offense was above average, but it wasn't elite. Well, the 49ers are elite offensively now, and the script is flipped because defensively they haven't been elite. They rank number 7 DVOA. They're a little closer here to the average line, which is the dotted red line. I personally, and this is something I said before the season even started, so I think that I could say it again with a lot of credibility right now. I don't think the 49ers defense is going to peak until November or December, and that assumes they're going to stay relatively healthy. But they brought in a new defensive coordinator in Steve Wilks. They asked that defensive coordinator to implement his own wrinkles into a pre-existing system that had been working. But Wilks, when you talk about his own wrinkles, this is a pretty significant departure from old philosophy. The 49ers opened this whole defensive project up in 2017 when Robert Saleh was the first hire at defensive coordinator as a rush over coverage unit. The pass rush fueled the coverage. They have since evolved to the point where it's been an ambidextrous unit. You see both sides, rush and the coverage fueling each other. But they've evolved so much that Wilks was a revolutionary hire for the 49ers, at least in this regime, in that he's a coverage over rush guy. He's a DB kind of guy. So just naturally, it was going to take at least a few weeks for the 49ers defense to find its stride under new leadership. And I think that it is finding its stride. I think I've seen a lot of impressive stuff from this team over the course of the past few days. I even wrote about their adjustments, if you will, against the Arizona Cardinals, the 3 game phases. Why don't we take a look at this really quickly? This is from my article after the game yesterday at Levi's Stadium. I think that this right here is fascinating because you could so easily divide the 49ers game day performance on the defensive side of the ball into 3 sections. You had the performance of the Arizona offense against them before the fake punt, 3.1 yards per play, which would rank last in the NFL. Then you had 2 drives after the fake punt, 8.8 yards per play, which would rank first in the NFL for Arizona's offense. So they just carved the 49ers for 2 possessions. And then you have everything after the 2-point try following the second touchdown on those 2 drives, back down to 4.9 yards per play, which is mediocre. So the 49ers defense had a tale of 3 games within one game, right? They had the struggles mid-game, but they were dominant to start, and they were really strong to close. And something about that tells me that this defense has different gears. And it makes sense that they would have different gears because they have a new defensive coordinator. They're working with slightly different personnel. They're really just trying to round into form and peak at the right time. And if they have different gears and they haven't peaked yet, well, it might be a good idea to kick it into a higher gear in a game against Dallas, where the marquee battle on the other side might call for a little bit of assistance. I mean, the 49ers offense for the first time this year is going to face a defense that's ranked higher than them on the DVOA scale, right? Dallas is ranked number 1. So in the laws of complementary football, if you lose some efficiency with one battle, if you lose some efficiency with this battle, then you have to win efficiency with another battle. You have to win back some of that lost slack. And I think this is going to be a game where the complementary formula has to get it done. So that sets up this battle. San Francisco, the 49ers defense against Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott and the new Texas Coast offense. I didn't make that up. Texas Coast. That's actually what the Cowboys are calling it. Dak didn't have a good year last year. Dak threw way too many interceptions to be at optimal efficiency for the Dallas Cowboys last year. But let's take a look at his numbers here on Pro Football Reference so you can get an idea of what I'm illustrating. So here's Dak Prescott through the years. I just highlighted last season. Look at the interceptions. League high 15 picks. We don't need Zach Wilson and his post-game interview on the screen. Just close that. 15 interceptions last year, 66% completion rate. Adjusted net yards per attempt kind of puts everything into one, and the adjusted net yards per attempt for Dak Prescott or 6.08. Wasn't over a full yard and a half lower than his prime years. His prime years, 2019, 2020 was really good. 2021 was solid. And then he took a big regression in 2022. The regression for Dak Prescott happened because he threw too many picks. So Dallas tried to adapt this offseason under Mike McCarthy by moving to a hybrid offense, a hybrid of what they used to run under their former offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, with, some of the concepts that worked, with a West Coast offense. And a West Coast offense is based on the short passing game, timing-based offense downfield. It's supposed to help out your offensive line. Well, if you go here to see the initial results this year, Dak is lower, or he's lower than he was in his prime in adjusted net yards per attempt, but he's a little bit higher than last season. He's cut the interception rate way, way down. INT rate was 3.8% last year. It's down to 0.7%. But the efficiency, to me, doesn't seem to have taken a jump that's commensurate with the cut and interception rate. And it's because the Cowboys are taking fewer chances downfield. So they're playing a safer offense with Dak Prescott in this Texas Coast offense. In fact, the air yards per attempt have gone from near the top of the league to near the bottom of the league. Just to give you an idea of how drastic this change has been, the completion rate has gone up about 4 points, 5 points, 66 to 71%. But still, the efficiency is just barely a tick up. So it seems that all this implementation of this new West Coast offense, quick release, so far it hasn't yielded the results that Dallas was hoping for. I think they're hoping for a return to Dak's glory years of 7.5 adjusted net yards per attempt. Instead, they're still stuck down here in this column at 6.3. This is the official right here where my cursor is. This is the column where you're going to want to see that overall efficiency. And the Cowboys, 7.8, 7.7, 7.3. Last year was 6.1. This year, they're at 6.3. They still want that to be a little bit better. Now, I will say that it's only been 4 games, and it's a new system. So maybe Dak Prescott still is working out the timing in this new Texas Coast system. Maybe this is something that's going to take a couple more months. Well, in that case, the 49ers have caught a big break in that they faced the Cowboys relatively early in week 5. Because I'll tell you what, every single team that has played the 49ers this year has resorted to a quick release. It's been crazy. We've never seen anything like this. Teams are dead set on not letting the 49ers pass rush get to their quarterback. But that doesn't mean that the 49ers pass rush isn't affecting the game. It absolutely is, because teams are reacting by snapping and releasing short passes just to avoid sacks. But what that does is it hurts their efficiency on the other end. Teams aren't getting any yards after the catch against the 49ers. The 49ers, remember I said the Cowboys had sneaky struggles against Yak, that they ranked number 27 in the league against Yak. The 49ers ranked number 1 in the league against Yak. The linebackers, the secondary, everybody's cleaning up. And a lot of that is because the quarterback is having to let go of the ball so quickly against the 49ers pass rush that they're not letting patterns develop, and they're not letting enough space develop on the back end for Yak to be a possibility. So the key for Dak Prescott to be able to challenge the 49ers is he's got to make quick release efficient. Just because you avoid a sack with a quick release doesn't mean you're playing efficient football. If it's a quick release and a 2-yard pass and the guy gets tackled right away with no yak, well, you've done all this work to avoid a sack, but you don't have much to show for it because you're going to be punting in a couple downs. So Prescott has to show that he can convert consistently against the 49ers with his new style of Texas Coast offense. And the results so far this season suggest that the 49ers will have an edge in this department. They're the number 7 defense by DVOA. Dallas is number 16. Arizona fielded a better offense than Dallas has fielded so far this year. That might change as the season progresses and goes along, but the 49ers were really impressed with Josh Dobbs. They were really impressed with James Conner, despite the little shove there of Talanoa Hufanga after the game with his helmet on while Hufanga's helmet was off. They're impressed with those guys. They're impressed with the receiving core, Hollywood Brown, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Mike Wilson. Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz. 49ers really, really liked what Arizona was offering this past week. And that Arizona offense ranks in the top 10 of the DVOA. The Cowboys are down at 16. So Dallas has to be better in this new Texas Coast system to have a chance against the 49ers. And to be better, they're going to have to make the quick release efficient. Get it out to CeeDee Lamb. Remember, one of the most impressive plays all of last year was in the NFC divisional round, 49ers, Cowboys. Red zone, CeeDee Lamb runs the seam. Fred Warner, a linebacker who was a good 30 to 40 pounds heavier than CeeDee Lamb, just blanketed him in the slot. We already knew that Fred Warner was special, but that was a Hall of Fame type of play. CeeDee Lamb, one of the most productive receivers in football, and a linebacker blanketed him. We saw Fred Warner blanketing Hollywood Brown on Sunday. He still has it. 49ers have some cheat codes on this defense, I'm telling you. I will say that the Cowboys are going to try to exploit the 49ers defense biggest weakness, and I think that's at the cornerback position. Have a look at this. I talked to Diamador Lenore after the game, and he had a great breakdown of what the 49ers were doing on defense as far as adjustments of the cornerback position went. So I'm just going to read this to you right here. Arizona had been firing. This is from my article on The Athletic. Arizona had been firing on all cylinders over the 2 drives prior to that point. Cardinals receivers Marquise Hollywood Brown and Michael Wilson combined for 14 catches, 172 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Arizona shuffled alignments with those 2 and fellow wide receiver Rondale Moore from previous games, throwing the 49ers into adjustment mode. That pushed outside cornerback Diamador Lenore into the slot and Ambry Thomas into the resulting opening at outside cornerback. Here's a quote from Diamador Lenore from my conversation with him. Quote, with Rondale, he played more in the slot on film and Hollywood was on the outside. Then we got to game time. They had Rondale on the outside and Hollywood on the inside. They have a good group. I like their receivers. I like Michael Wilson. He runs intermediate routes. He can also take the top off. So Lenore explained that the 49ers moved him inside in place of Isaiah Oliver and by extension put Ambry Thomas into the game because the Cardinals put their premier receiver, Hollywood Brown, on the inside to force Oliver out of the game because Oliver covers bigger guys like Darren Waller. Demo moves inside to face shiftier guys like Hollywood Brown. Well, I think that Dallas is going to line CeeDee Lamb up in the slot, and that's going to force Diamador Lenore inside because the 49ers are going to want to run Isaiah Oliver against CeeDee Lamb. And that's going to force the 49ers to go to a new cornerback on the outside. And that new cornerback has been Ambry Thomas. Is Kendall Sheffield going to be ready to play after 11 impressive snaps by next Sunday? Probably not. Takes a little longer to break into the lineup, but maybe. That Arizona manipulated the 49ers coverage alignments and DB rotations by realizing how they operate the whole slot rotation with Deommodore Lenoir coming inside. Why wouldn't Dallas do the same? This is why people are saying, hey, the 49ers might want to think about adding another cornerback, because if Demo is forced into the slot, then it's Ambry Thomas's job or somebody else's job on the outside. And that has been a soft spot of this defense. Michael Wilson ran that little double move that got Arizona's offense going, 33 yards. Might have been the longest pass play of the year for the Cardinals up until that point. So I think Dallas is going to try to exploit some of the same stuff with the Texas Coast offense. So the 49ers are going to have to be ready for it as Dak Prescott tries to make the quick release efficient against the 49ers. Now, I will say, too, that Dallas's offensive line is not what it used to be. We always remember the Cowboys' offensive line, the Great Wall of Dallas. You know, we talk about this imposing front, especially good in pass protection. And that really, you know, even still was the case in 2021 when the 49ers played them in the playoffs. I thought that the script started to reverse that year for the Dallas Cowboys, thanks to somebody named Charles Omenihu. Remember the 49ers traded for him in 2021, and then Omenihu just absolutely owned Tyron Smith, the left tackle for the Cowboys in that game. Well, I think that the 49ers, ever since then, they've had a definite leg up against the Cowboys when it goes D-line against O-line, and that's going to be something that we really need to watch with this football game, because Tyron Smith has missed the past 2 games due to injury. When Tyron hasn't been in there, Chuma Adoga has not been good at left tackle. He's the swing tackle for this Dallas team. He's given up, I think, 6 pressures over the 2 games, so he definitely has not had a clean sheet. Tyler Smith is a good player at left guard. Zach Martin, obviously, is a veteran at that right guard position, but Terrence Steele at right tackle has also given up a fair share of pressure for the Dallas Cowboys. So the 49ers pass rush, which has objectively been good, has a chance to make serious noise in this game. You don't need sacks to deliver a productive pass rushing performance. This is more of what you need. I've got a good graphic to illustrate the 49ers pass rush. And especially if Dak Prescott is playing a lot of quick release, this might be all the 49ers can get, because they've been dealing with quarterbacks getting rid of the football before they're able to get to them. So the next best thing, you can strain the pocket. Take a look at this from NFL Next Gen Stats. This is from the Arizona game played yesterday. The black line right here, that is the average distance from quarterback. It's like 4.6 or 4.7 yards. Oh, yeah, 4.6, 4.56. The 49ers, every single one of their primary pass rushers was on average closer to the QB via GPS tracking than league average. And 3 of them here, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, and Drake Jackson, were closer to Joshua Dobbs by a mile. I mean, Hargrave averaged a 3.56 yard distance. Bosa 3.59. Jackson 3.65. That's way less. That's like a yard less. Hargraves is literally a full yard less than the league average. So this is a visualization of the pocket constricting. The 49ers are constricting the pocket, and even if they're not getting home for consistent sacks against these quick release teams, they are impacting the efficiency of the quarterback operating by compacting the walls around him. It's like another Star Wars reference. It's the trash compactor. The walls are closing in on opposing quarterbacks, and they're having to panic as they're trying to throw that ball downfield, and it's hurting their efficiency downfield. So can Prescott make quick release efficient against the 49ers, even though his offensive line hasn't been as great and the 49ers defensive line is running really well? That to me is a huge key in this game. At the end of the day, the 49ers are 3.5-point favorites. And that line obviously anticipates the 49ers are going to reasonably succeed in their goal of playing this game downhill. That they're going to diffuse enough of the bomb that is the Dallas defense. If that bomb goes off, you're in trouble, but you diffuse enough of it by playing turnover-free football and running the ball with some efficiency. And I think that the odds are in Christian McCaffrey's favor, given how good he's been, given how good Brock Purdy has been. The line assumes the 49ers will be able to do that, but it also assumes that Dallas is going to throw enough thorns into their attack to make this a close game, to make this a problematic one. For that reason, you've got to play it downhill. It's about how you start in this game, because that's going to lead you to have some momentum in the arm wrestling match, right? You're pushing down. You don't want to be on the other end. You don't want to be the one getting pushed down in that arm wrestling match against Dallas. Play the game downhill is crucial. All right, I'm going to open it up to a 49ers Q&A. Hopefully you enjoyed my 40-minute preview of this game, the first preview of 49ers Cowboys. I am ready for your questions. Chris thinks the 49ers are going to score 30 this game. It'd be mighty impressive, but if Dallas is truly a boom or bust defense and the 49ers cause that defense to bust instead of boom, 30 is possible. Well, Kyle Juszczyk has been part of the passing game. The first attempt on Sunday went to Kyle Juszczyk. It set the tone for the whole game. They drew Kaiser White, the best linebacker in coverage on that Arizona team, to defend Kyle Juszczyk, and drew a holding flag against him. It was incomplete, but it didn't count as incomplete because of the holding flag. So you don't have to get a target to be part of the passing game. A lot of people make this false equivalence of targets and involvement. This offense, it is not selfish. That's why the 49ers are so good, is because all 5 eligibles are doing their part. It's like basketball, where Steph Curry is impacting a play even when he doesn't get the ball with how much he moves, because he's spacing the floor. So the other guys are very much involved in helping everybody else get open. They're just not touching the ball. They're just not getting the look. But Juszczyk did get a look this last game, but I would not say that he wasn't involved. He definitely has been involved. Well, in Dak's defense, most wide receiver quarterbacks don't get past look 1 or look 2, right? I mean, the 49ers offense is designed to go to read 1. Shanahan believes in read 1. If you're going to read 2, you better have a really damn good reason to go to read 2. If you're going beyond that, Shanahan's probably going to be mad. When Purdy went to read 5 last year with George Kittle in Vegas and scored a touchdown and did the ice in his veins, Kyle Shanahan was just sitting there pissed, because read 1 was Jawan Jennings and Purdy missed him open. So going to read 1 in a West Coast style quick release offense is what your coach wants you to do, unless it's completely choked off. Third string All-Pro wants my score prediction, which I haven't made yet. I'm going to give that on Friday. He says 31-17. Jim says, I'm worried they're overusing McCaffrey. He might get injured. Why not mix in more running back usage? Well, they did mix in Jordan Mason. The week prior, Elijah Mitchell got 10 to 15 touches, but he was hurt this time. You know, injuries are just going to come. Like, I think there could be a game where McCaffrey gets 5 touches and he gets hurt. Knock on wood, nobody wants it to happen. But at some level, I mean, he has withstood these kinds of seasons before many times. So, and I don't think his injuries had anything to do with overuse in 2018, or what year was it? No, 2020 and 2021 in Carolina. Those are more kind of COVID year weirdness. So you have to find the right balance, because McCaffrey is so damn good that he does open up space on the field, and it's so tempting to keep him in there. Shanahan has admitted that you've got to rein back a little bit to find the right balance of freshness and efficiency. And I think that so far they've done a decently good job striking that balance. Maybe they have to get a little bit more aggressive with the substitutions as the season progresses, maybe through some of the dog days of the season. But I think in general, it's hard to be really mad at what the 49ers have done so far. Players are staying relatively healthy out on that football field. Is Dallas weak on the edges? Which edges? They're definitely not weak on the defensive edges. That's where Micah Parsons is. Along the offensive line, yeah, Tyron Smith is hurt. I don't know if he's going to play. We'll get more of an injury report this week. That's one side of the offensive line. That's the left tackle side of the offensive line. And then the other side is Terrence Steele, who's given up a lot of pressure this year. So maybe on the edges of the offensive line, the Cowboys aren't as strong as they used to be. We'll see if the 49ers can capitalize on that with their very powerful defensive line. It's fair to say that both Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy are the engines of the offense. The 49ers are like a supercomputer that has dual processors. Maybe they have tri-processors, 3 of them. But yes, CMC is absolutely an engine. You know who else is an engine? The quarterback who completed over 95% of his passes into a lot of tight windows, who has great composure, especially for a 23-year-old, who hasn't thrown a single interception this year after people try to make a big deal out of training camp interceptions. Brock Purdy's an engine too. Christian McCaffrey is great. He is a firm MVP candidate. Brock Purdy is great. He is a firm MVP candidate. Anybody trying to say that Brock Purdy is not doing something impressive out there just does not know football. Cut up these 10 seconds, send it to whoever you need to send it. Brock Purdy is doing really impressive stuff out on the field. Anybody who says it's not impressive, who says he can be replaced by an average quarterback, does not know the game, does not know what they're watching. It's as simple as that. I mean, history at this point should have slapped people in the face. Brock Purdy's performance should have slapped people in the face. He is an engine of what the 49ers are doing. The data points in only that direction. Logic points in only that direction. Non-biased thinking points in only that direction. And at the same time, because we have parallel thinking here, at the same time, Christian McCaffrey makes everybody a whole lot better too. Purdy benefits from McCaffrey. McCaffrey benefits from Purdy. They both benefit from Shanahan. Shanahan benefits from both of them. And then continue this symbiotic relationship for the entire 49ers roster, period, checkmate, done. Send it. Ian Sharp says Debo will be primed for the Cowboys. Complementary football, absolutely. Complementary football is not just offense helping defense and defense helping offense. It's pieces of the offense helping each other. Football is a beautiful sport that people need to respect more. People need to start respecting the game. I don't think that trying to discredit 100% of what Brock Purdy does to say somebody else gets credit for it, to say Shanahan or McCaffrey gets credit for it, I don't think that's respecting the game. And by extension, you're not respecting Christian McCaffrey, even if you're giving him 100% of the credit, right? I think that respecting the game is acknowledging that it is a beautiful combination of teamwork where every individual player has a different job that they have to get on the same page to execute in cohesion. And they're all fighting toward the same goal. But the offensive linemen have a job that's so different from the quarterback and from the running backs that their body types have to be, 100 pounds heavier? They're doing completely different stuff. The receivers are doing different stuff than the running backs. The running backs are doing different stuff than the quarterbacks. And one of the added wrinkles to what the 49ers are doing is that the receivers and the running backs and the tight ends, there's a little bit more intermixing between those position groups. So that makes it a whole new level of difficult and complex. But it's all straining toward the same goal, which is what makes this a beautiful sport. And the minute that people try to start crediting only one person and discrediting everybody else, whether it be Shanahan, Purdy, McCaffrey, they're not respecting the game. They're not understanding the game. This is a great collective sport that deserves to be respected. And that's the way that the 49ers have tried to build this team. This is a good comment right now. This is a strong, well-oiled machine firing on all cylinders, just getting broken in. 49ers seem to be getting better every week. 30, 30, 30, 35. Same commenter. The 49ers are ascending. What do I think that Dallas did in the NFC playoff game that was able to limit the 49ers offense. You can all drop your thoughts in the comment section, but I just think that Dallas has really good players. Dan Quinn's good, right? Dan Quinn's a good defensive coordinator, but I broke down that tape. You could search it. I broke down that tape, and it was a story of Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, they have so many good defensive linemen. Let's take a look at this depth chart for the Cowboys. There's Lawrence, big Jonathan Hankins on the inside, Osa Digizua on the inside. He's a good defensive tackle. He caused problems last year against the 49ers. Obviously, Parsons, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler Jr., Sam Williams over here as a third stringer. I mean, this is a good Dallas front with opportunistic cornerbacks. They don't have Diggs anymore. He's hurt. They picked up Gilmore. Gilmore's on this team, Stephon Gilmore. You look at the safeties, Malik Hooker and Deron Bland. Jordan Lewis, who's the nickelback, Jaron Kearse. Deron Bland's the opposite corner of Stephon Gilmore. I was reading wrong there. But the Cowboys are one of those football teams that, again, they're built to play downhill off that pass rush. And if they could slow your run, they're going to be able to play at least partially their brand of football. The 49ers only ran for 3.5 per carry last year because Dallas was tough and they're physical up front. And that allowed them to imprint some of their brand of football against Brock Purdy. Some of that pass rushing, exposing the 49ers offensive line, which is better, I think, run blocking than it is in pass protection, at least in theory. So that's how Dallas was able to limit the 49ers, limit Brock Purdy. But you know what? Brock Purdy won that game because he realized, okay, these guys are smothering some of what we're trying to do. I'm going to make sure I don't turn it over. You got to manage the game. And Brock Purdy managed the game really well against the Cowboys. I thought he was really impressive in the divisional playoffs last year. And yeah, you got to get the ball out fast, somebody says here in the comment section, but it can't be at the expense of offensive efficiency too. I think that's been a little bit of an issue with Dak on the other side. He's getting rid of the ball quickly this year, but I don't think he's seeing the efficiency rewards, the yak rewards that you want to see when that does happen with the quick release. Purdy is better than he was last year. Yeah, so is Christian McCaffrey. GTFO for Hargrave and Kinlaw. That's Chris Kasarek's favorite saying, getting off the ball. Yeah, I mean, New York sent 80% blitz, and the 49ers did fine, but remember, Dallas has got better edge players than the New York Giants. Sometimes it's not just about what the defensive coordinator calls, it's who's executing it. And Dallas is Micah. You can't sleep on Micah Parsons. I don't think anybody is, but realize that the Cowboys are damn loaded up front. So that's what made this a tough go for the 49ers in the playoffs, and it's going to make it a challenging go on Sunday. Score prediction is not coming until Friday. You're going to have to wait for it. Who's the better wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb or Brandon Ayuk? I think Brandon Ayuk is a much more complete wide receiver. I mean, the catch radius is crazy. He's got those long arms. The catch radius is epic for Brandon Ayuk. We saw those physical measurements when he came out of ASU, and everybody's like, oh boy, this guy, he's not that tall frame-wise to where it would hurt his short area quickness, but he's got the length. He's got Megatron's wingspan, so he could gobble up some footballs. But on top of that, Ayuk is just bought in. He's fully bought in. You saw it in week 1 against Pittsburgh when he's blocking downfield. He took on the edge rusher, and then he went to the second level and he took on Casey, right? He took on Casey, the defensive back. 2 blocks over 15 yards in 3 or 4 seconds. A very tiny span. So Ayuk has shown up and he is physically bought in, fully physically bought into what Kyle Shanahan is selling. And because of that, he's a complete receiver. We saw an elite adjustment. And by the way, Brock Purdy did not underthrow that football in the 42-yarder. Purdy put that ball exactly where it had to be. Exactly where it had to be on that 42-yarder. If he goes over the top to Brandon Ayuk on that post, it's picked. It's knocked away if he's lucky, but it's probably picked. So he goes to the right, goes slightly underneath to the right. You know how hard it is to make an adjustment midair? Like against double coverage, 40 yards downfield as a wide receiver. That ball's midair. You're running a route with your helmet on. It's hard to see. You know how hard it is to make that adjustment? If it was easy to make the adjustment, the two defensive backs would have made the adjustment. They didn't. Brandon Ayuk made the adjustment. That's because he's on the same page with Brock Purdy. That's a great example of two players on a football field having very different assignments, but having to make those assignments meld together as a team. Purdy with the great throw, 42 yards downfield. Brandon Ayuk with a great route and a great adjustment to make the catch. So I'd take Ayuk over CeeDee Lamb at this point. Yeah, it definitely was not short. It was a perfect pass. A lot of perfect passes for Brock Purdy in this game. Exactly. He threw him open. That's the way to say it. Maybe I could have avoided the rant and just said that. Yes, Purdy's in the top 10 quarterbacks. All right, everybody, we're going to call it a night. We're at what, 56 minutes here? Over 1,100 viewers. If there are a couple more good questions, I'll answer them. But if not, I just want you to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to The Athletic. Embrace yourself for some good Brock Purdy versus the Cowboys defense content that I'll be pumping out here over the next couple of days. Trey Lance giving the Cowboys information. Well, what all information can he give them? That's the thing. Like, everybody has access to tape. You could watch the tape to see what the 49ers run. There's years of it on Kyle Shanahan. So you want Greenlaw to get equal appreciation to Fred Warner. He's good too. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I can't see all the comments. They're scrolling so fast today, but that's a nice one. Thanks a lot. Greenlaw is a little bit banged up with that ankle injury. This is a good one. Any potential Cleveland restaurants? Why didn't anybody? I don't know yet. I haven't done my research on Cleveland. I've never been there. So if anybody has any ideas for Cleveland, please drop them into the comment section. And if you do that, then we're going to have some fun times in Cleveland, eating and drinking our way through that city. Not this weekend, but the next, when the 49ers play the Browns. Really? Over 1,000 viewers, only 250 likes? I don't like that ratio. That's like a poor touchdown to interception ratio. We don't want that. Yes, this week the practice windows do open up potentially if the 49ers decide to open them for Danny Gray, Robert Beal, and Darrell Luter Jr. They don't have to activate them, but they can open up the practice windows, and they can activate these guys if they do feel that they're ready. 3-week practice windows, though, can open up now. So essentially, it's an exemption for having more guys out on the practice field for a couple weeks. And I think that's probably the route the 49ers will go with, since it doesn't seem that they're all too injured elsewhere. Day-to-day for Deebo Samuel, and day-to-day for Jawan Jennings and Elijah Mitchell, with John Feliciano being in the concussion protocol. That's the extent of the 49ers injury report. Cool. Everybody, thanks for joining. It's been a fun show. The 49ers Cowboys first preview. We'll talk to everybody very soon.